James Nnaji from Barcelona. As you can see on that graphic, he's 18 years of age. He's going to be 19 soon. This is really young. Center, 6'10". Probably most times I see him going around 29, 30, that sort of back end of the first round. I have seen one mock draft having it at number 21. Some people, pretty silly, I think, dropping him to the middle of the second round. That's through my mock draft database that I've got there. But in terms of looking at Naji and what he's able to do, like, you're higher on him than a lot of people. What do you think his overall upside is? Like, how high do you think he can be? Because we know that at times centers can be undervalued. They can be more plentiful and not as useful in the NBA because of the replaceability of them. What does Naji do that stands out?
I think he could be the best defender from this class. When you look at his age, he's obviously one of the youngest guys in this class.
Yep.
He's built like an NBA veteran already. I mean, the guy's massive, freakish athleticism, both vertically, laterally, going forwards, backwards. Just his movement is super smooth. And that's the big selling point with him, is that he is still this young, but he's this composed and comfortable when a really very different defensive schemes, super effective despite being this young for one of the best basketball teams in Europe. It's a lot. His defense gives me a lot of Robert Williams, Bam Adebayo vibes, and I know those are really lofty expectations and comparisons, and I don't give them lightly. But that's just how much I think of his defense, because he does have the footwork and the athleticism to kind of switch on the perimeter. He's super comfortable in drop coverage already. You can just do a lot of really different stuff with him on the defensive end. The concern is the offense, and he's basically a zero at that end. And he took 2 jumpers all year, really concerning scoring touch, only 48% on free throws, and 79% of his shots were either a tip-in, a dunk, or a layup this year. So you're not really getting anything from him on the offensive end besides screening, rim running, play finishing at the rim. But the entire selling point with him is just the astronomical ceiling that his defense could bring.
Now, I'm not saying that this is the case, but people will often have these, they'll break things down into a really, yes, not even if binary is the right term, but we look at, here is a center with no offense who's hyper young, coming into a draft, who's coming and playing in Spain. So why is he different to Usman Garuba, who was a center who played defense and played in Spain and played and had no offense and was really young coming into the draft? How do they differ?
Yeah, and I think Garuba kind of projected a little more with a perimeter defense, and I think Naji is that pure center defender where he does have that legit rim protection. Yes, he can switch on the perimeter if needed, but he's really comfortable in that drop coverage where his positioning is almost perfect every time. And for an 18-year-old to be that comfortable, that is really, really encouraging. And then just really good verticality, shot blocking at the rim. It's just the type of defensive cornerstone. I was a little lower on Garuba when he was coming over because it felt a little more chaotic with him. The highlights were insane, really high energy stuff. But Naji feels more composed, more consistent, more grounded in what he does on the defensive end. And then offensively, the concern is that there really isn't a whole lot of skill or scoring touch there. But he also doesn't play outside of himself. Like, he knows that he's not some shooter or playmaker on that end of the floor, and he's not trying to do that. He's really playing within his role. He rotates and kind of roams that baseline really effectively and cracks offensive rebounds really consistently. So he's not trying to do more than he should be on that end, which I think is really encouraging for someone of his pedigree at that age.
I think one thing that's important when looking at these stats, got them presented on the screen here, and you'll say, you say he's a zero in offense. He's got a 19% usage, but it's important to understand what that means, and that usage is because of turnovers. Like, he averages 3 turnovers per 36 minutes compared to 1.3 assists, but also 5 free throw attempts per 36 minutes because he's a bad free throw shooter. It's not because he's this offensive guy that's a league average usage guy. It's like getting free throws and it's turnovers that's contributing to that. Like, he's not taking big amounts of field goals. So people don't always understand what usage is. They think it's a number that just means, well, that's how often you're running things or executing plays or giving the ball, and that's not what it is. So that number at 19, it's probably like, when we see like Derek Lively, who I talked with Rafael Barlow about yesterday, had like a usage of like 11 or 12%. But that's that doesn't mean that him and Naji are necessarily different in terms of the way they've been utilized offensively on their current teams. How high would you go with Naji?
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going in the teens on draft night. I've heard around the league that there are some real big fans of him. When I say teens, I don't mean lottery. I don't mean that. I'm not talking that aggressive. But, I mean, like 17, 18, 19,
Okay.
20-ish, it wouldn't shock me if he kind of went that high.
Because that group around there, so there's the Warriors there, there's the Lakers there, there's the Rockets there, who all could do with either someone who could develop into a starting center or at least provide big man depth. And I've seen Derek Lively in that area a lot.
Yep.
So it does make sense if you're looking for someone, because those teams in that spot could definitely use someone. Even if they're not a starter, it's someone just provides that extra big man depth. It's not Mo Bamba, or it's not whatever Golden State was running out behind Kevon Looney for big chunks of the season. There are opportunities there for those